It's not a coincidence that 15 of the 19 hijackers were of Saudi origin.
The United States uses about a quarter of the world's oil, with under 5% of its people.
Americans use 400 million gallons of gasoline every day. Rising prices take a lot of money out of the American pocketbook.
So when you and I pull into the gasoline pump, we probably ought to turn the mirror a little bit and look ourselves in the eye for just a second before we get out and get the credit card out to charge. Because if we want to know who is paying for these madrasas around the world that are teaching little 8-year-old boys to be suicide bombers and teaching the passionate hatred of Jews and Shiites and oppression of everyone else and so on, you and I are, as we pay for that gasoline.
In today's context, there are actually two different types of jihad. There's the violent jihad, where the Islamists use violence and terror to try to overthrow their enemy. And then there's what has been termed the cultural jihad, where these Islamists use in a most duplicitous way the laws and the rights they are given in our society to try to work against society and overthrow it.
We think that Saudi Arabia's principal export is oil. It's not, it's ideology. All oil does is enable them to have the money to export the ideology.
In 2005, a study by the Center for Religious Freedom revealed that Wahhabism, which is the radical Saudi brand of Islam, is dominant in many American mosques, and that a substantial percentage of U.S. mosques have Wahhabi-trained and funded religious leaders. The study found that much of the official Saudi-supplied literature they found in American mosques contained text and teachings that could be considered hate speech against non-Muslims. One such example reads, "Never greet the Christian or Jew first." And then it goes on to say, "Hate them for their religion and oppose them in every way according to Islamic law." The report argues that this kind of ideology has the potential to radicalize impressionable followers. It suggests that Adam Gaddan, the so-called American jihadi, was exposed to this kind of material at an Islamic center in California. Today, he is an Al-Qaeda operative.
Now it's your turn to die. Allah willing, the streets of America shall run red with blood.
Mosques that are breeding grounds for political Islam, that receive funds from Wahhabists, are a danger to American security because the youth in those mosques and the Muslims being taught ideology in that mosque are not being taught about Americanism and the American Western way of life. They are actually being taught to hate secular society and to try to establish an Islamic state. And that is a threat to our security. There have even been reports of hate speech found in Saudi-funded Muslim schools.
An Islamic school in Northern Virginia is causing some controversy. It comes after a report claiming the textbooks that school uses may be promoting religious intolerance.
An example is from a 12th grade Quranic interpretation that says it's permissible to kill an adulterer or a convert who left the faith.
Recently, a report said that some of the school's textbooks teach violent actions against Christians, Shia Muslims, and Jews.
In the Wahhabi textbooks I've seen, in the West, in particular in America, there are passages calling for holy war. And that is not Afghanistan or Iran. That is Virginia. That is London. That is Toronto. That's what's very disturbing.
The oil-producing countries exercise enormous influence, not only on education, but even on policy.
As soon as the oil started to bring in revenues to the Middle East, mainly to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, they started to contribute to the United States politicians. The Saudis contribute money to people who influence the politics of the United States.
One of the principal means of spreading influence is to endow departments of Middle East studies at very respected universities.
The Saudis have given tens of millions of dollars to American universities.
In the case of Georgetown and Harvard, it was in the amount of $20 million.
And the students who go to these universities are then being taught the Saudi point of view on Islam.
Many of the Saudi-funded courses profess the noble aim of bridging the gap between Islam and Christianity. But this is absurd when one considers that there isn't even one church in all of Saudi Arabia, and that it's an offense for a non-Muslim to even set foot in Mecca, Islam's holiest city.
Petrodollars are invested on campuses, in classrooms. This is where the future diplomats are coming from. Then they become part of government. Then they will continue to apply the principles that they have been receiving by the instructors and professors who are sitting on jihadi grants. This is diplomatic jihad.
Despite all these concerns, our media and politicians will have us believe that Saudi Arabia is both a moderate Muslim country and our ally in the war on terror and radical Islam.
Saudi Arabia is not moderate. There's nothing moderate about Saudi Arabia. Every week people are beheaded. Every week people's hands are cut off.
هل أنت أيضا تنفذ قطع اليد ولا تكتفي بس بقطع الرؤوس؟ هل هناك تخصصات؟
نعم ننفذ قطع اليد بالنسبة للحرام وننفذ قطع الرجل خلف وخلاف كما ذكر في القرآن.
So if you consider that to be moderate, then, well, good luck.
And Americans are being told that many of the mainstream Muslim groups are also moderate, when in fact, if you look a little closer, you'll see a very different reality. One of their primary tactics is deception. They present themselves as moderate leaders committed to peace and condemning terror.
As Muslims, we want to state clearly
that those who commit acts of terror in the name of Islam are betraying the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad.
But when asked about specific terrorist groups, CARE officials are either evasive or outright supportive.
Does CARE have a position on Palestinian Islamic Jihad?
We haven't published one.
Now, don't you think that...
Oh, yeah,
you don't think...
It's about the terrorist organization.
It's not a terrorist organization.
And in 2000, Abdul Rahman al-Amoudi openly supported terrorist groups.
Anybody is a supporter of Hamas here? Hear that, Bill Clinton? We are all supporters of Hamas. Allahu Akbar. Anybody supports Hezbollah here? Takbir.
But al-Amoudi went further than just cheering for these groups. In 2004, he was actually arrested on terror charges. Perhaps what made the al-Amoudi case so troubling was that he was considered by many in the media and government to be a moderate Muslim leader. And al-Amoudi isn't the only leader who's had a problem with the law. Many so-called moderate Muslim leaders have been convicted on terror-related charges. To be fair, on their website, CARE has condemned Al-Qaeda by name. But why won't they condemn Hamas or Hezbollah?
And you sit here now and in just one sentence tell me CARE condemns Hamas and CARE condemns Hezbollah.
I'm telling you in a very clear fashion, CARE condemns terrorist acts, whoever commits them, wherever they commit them, whenever they commit them.
That's not the same thing as saying you condemn Hamas and you condemn Hezbollah.
Well, I recognize that you don't like my answer to the question.
The FBI uncovered a secret document that seems to answer this and many other questions. This is believed to be the manifesto of the Muslim Brotherhood in North America.
Hamas grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. Palestinian Islamic Jihad grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. From the Egyptian Islamic Jihad movement grew the current movement of Al-Qaeda, for instance.
This 15-page manifesto outlines the goals and strategies of the Muslim Brotherhood's activities in North America. On page 7, the document states that their work in America is a kind of a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within. And then it speaks about setting up groups and mosques and